We've all been there, right? Those moments where, the pressure just builds and staying calm feels almost impossible. Maybe you felt that heat rise when someone cut you off in traffic, or maybe frustration just boiled over at work and you said something you, well, instantly regretted. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a whole stack of your sources, articles, research, expert advice, all focused on pulling out the really key nuggets on a crucial skill: maintaining composure. Think of this as maybe your shortcut, not just how to stay calm, but really why it's so important. We got some surprising facts and practical techniques you can use right away.
Exactly. And this isn't just, about avoiding a public meltdown. It's actually fundamental. It guards our mental, our physical health, keeps relationships intact, and it really does underpin effective leadership.
Okay.
The sources are clear. Even just one public display of anger can really damage a reputation long term. And it's interesting, the material highlights how we're wired for these quick defensive reactions. Think, surviving tigers for 10,000 years. But most situations now, they aren't life or death, are they? So our mission really is to help you figure out how to handle those non-tiger moments with a bit more grace and control.
Okay, so understanding why our brains work like this seems like the first step. Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard sometimes to just keep cool? What's actually going on inside us during that surge of anger or frustration?
Well, what's really fascinating, and the sources dive into this, is the brain's emotional wiring. When anger or fear hits, the amygdala, that's like our brain's threat detector, it just springs into action. And it's faster, much faster than the prefrontal cortex.
Which is the logical part.
Exactly, the part for reason, planning, self-control. So you get this kind of neurological tug of war. Your emotional reaction often just outruns your logical thinking. That's where those impulsive moments come from.
And beyond that sort of immediate hijacked feeling, what about the longer-term effects? When we do lose our cool, what are the ripples, not just for others, but for us?
Yeah, connecting this to the bigger picture, losing your temper frequently can really start to erode your mental health. It contributes to things like anxiety, depression. It can weaken your sense of self. And there's a big physical toll, too. It triggers chronic stress responses.
Like high blood pressure.
High blood pressure, headaches, yeah, even increased risk of cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
Basically, the body gets locked in this constant state of alert, and that can wear it down prematurely.
Wow. So it's definitely not just about appearances. It goes much deeper. And thinking about professional settings where maybe the stakes feel even higher, what's the impact there?
That brings up a really important point about leadership, doesn't it? The material really emphasizes that an outburst can, well, stain a reputation pretty badly. It weakens your influence, definitely, and can create these kind of toxic atmospheres. Nobody wants to work in that.
Right. It signals instability.
Instability, exactly. Colleagues might distance themselves, trust erodes, but conversely, think about leaders who stay composed, especially when things get tough during a crisis. They inspire confidence, cooperation, people become more loyal. It actually amplifies their authority. Think about a historical example.
Like Lincoln or Kennedy.
Precisely. Their composure under immense pressure wasn't just about preventing disaster. It built trust and authority.
That really drives home the power of self-regulation. Okay, let's pivot then. Let's get into those, immediate tools, things we can use right when we feel that temperature start to rise. Where do we even start?
Okay, a really strong theme across a lot of the sources is awareness. Simple, but crucial. You have to identify your triggers. What people, what behaviors, what situations tend to set you off?
So like keeping track.
Yeah. Dan McCarthy suggests looking back over maybe the last 6 months, see if patterns emerge, maybe jot them down. And Lissa DeHart has this great image. Put on your Sherlock Holmes hat. Rewind your last blow up in slow motion. Were you tired, hungry, feeling unheard? Find those clues. The main goal here is owning those triggers, taking responsibility for how you react, not just blaming the trigger itself.
Okay, so awareness first, then what? Once you know a trigger's been hit, what's the immediate physical thing you can do?
Breathing. It sounds almost too simple, right? But both classic advice and science back it up.
Like count to 10.
Yeah, the old count to 10 cliche works for a reason. It gives you a pause. But the sources also detail things like the 4.7.8 relaxing breath exercise.
I think I've heard of that. How does it go again?
You breathe out completely, then breathe in quietly through your nose for 4 counts. Hold it for 7 counts. Then breathe out completely through your mouth for 8 counts.
4, 7, 8.
That ratio, the 4.7.8, is key. It's actually designed to kickstart your parasympathetic nervous system.
The calm down system.
Exactly. It pulls you out of that fight or flight mode. Perry Manzano even has this interesting suggestion. Using an instinctive curse word, if that's what comes out.
Huh, really?
Yeah, but using it as an audible cue to immediately take a deep breath in, visualize the negative energy going out with the exhale. The aim, eventually, is to replace the curse with just the calm breath. It's a way of hijacking the hijack, maybe.
Interesting. Now, what about the advice to just walk away and cool off? That seems common sense. This is always the best move, according to what we read.
Well, this is where it gets interesting because the sources actually offer slightly different takes. Perry Manzano, for one, argues against just walking away. He says it's like hitting pause, but the emotion is still there, waiting.
So it just delays it.
That's his view. He suggests facing it head on, but training your brain to visualize calm in that moment. Picture a waterfall, a sleeping baby, something serene.
Right there while the stress is happening.
Yeah, but then you have other experts, like from the Forbes Business Council, who strongly recommend taking that pause. They say things like, move on to a different subject, then come back, or just let your emotions settle, walk away, schedule a follow-up.
So create space.
Exactly. Give yourself space and time between the trigger and your response. Stephen Covey talked about this. The idea is your brain under stress. Well, it's not built for thoughtful arguments. It's built for survival. It's kind of stupid in that mode, as one source put it.
Okay, so we have these immediate tools, breathing, maybe pausing, but after that initial reaction, how do we reframe things mentally to really keep our composure?
This is where shifting your perspective comes in. It's crucial. Dan McCarthy talks about taking a helicopter view. Imagine floating up above the situation.
Seeing it objectively.
Objectively, yeah. And trying to see it from the other person's perspective, too. Put yourself in their shoes, even for a moment.
It's hard when you're angry.
It is, but it's powerful. The Forbes experts also suggest writing things down. The problem, potential solutions. Ask yourself, what's the absolute worst that could happen here? Sometimes just seeing it written down makes it feel less overwhelming, less emotional.
And dealing with the other people involved. That's often the hardest part, isn't it? Composure isn't just internal. How do the sources suggest we handle those interactions?
Empathy comes up again and again. It seems absolutely key. Stephen Covey's advice is highlighted. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Really listen.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, definitely. Lissa DeHart offers a really challenging technique for this. She suggests visualizing someone you love, a family member, a close friend, in place of the person who's upset you.
Why?
To challenge your ego, basically. To soften that immediate defensive reaction. It forces a different perspective. Forbes also consistently recommends assuming positive intent. Remind yourself it might not be personal. Maybe there's a reason behind their behavior you don't know.
So trying not to take it personally. And also, I think you mentioned accepting feedback. Even difficult feedback. That sounds tough.
It is tough, but the sources talk about learning to see feedback as a gift, even when it stings, accepting criticism gracefully. One source called it psychological judo.
Psychological judo. What does that mean?
Like, instead of resisting the criticism head on, you kind of use its momentum, acknowledge it, maybe learn from it without letting it knock you over.
So you don't have to agree with it necessarily.
And not necessarily agree, but choose not to escalate. It's normal to feel hurt. The sources acknowledge that. But you choose not to add fuel to the fire. Lissa DeHart also says, challenge it, meaning challenge your own thoughts when you're stressed or angry. Ask yourself, is this thought 100% true? What evidence do I have against this thought? It creates that critical distance again.
That makes sense. Creating space in your own head. But what if things just feel completely overwhelming, like a pileup of problems?
Yeah, for those moments, Perry Manzano has this thing called the asteroid scenario test. The asteroid scenario test. He says, imagine an asteroid is about to hit Earth. Seriously. Would you spend your last days stressing about, I don't know, your annoying coworker, something you can't control?
Probably not.
Right, you'd focus on loved ones, on what matters. So the test helps you identify what you genuinely cannot control. Acknowledge that, accept it fully, and then, crucially, redirect your energy to the positive steps you can control.
Focus on what you can influence.
Exactly. And related to that, Forbes reminds us, hardships pass, and also it's okay to fail. Learning from setbacks is part of building resilience.
So if we try to boil it down, what's the ultimate guiding principle here when we're in the thick of it, trying to stay calm?
I think Lissa DeHart puts it really well. She says the most important question to ask yourself is, what is your goal?
Your goal.
Yeah. Not just in that moment, but bigger picture. In life, how do you want to show up as a person? Then ask, will what I'm about to say or think or do Will it take me closer to that goal or farther away?
Ah, that's powerful. It forces you to be intentional.
Very intentional. It helps you choose the mindset, the action, the delivery that actually serves where you want to go.
Okay, we've covered a lot on handling the moment, shifting mindset.
Mhm.
What about the long game? Building resilience so we're less likely to lose our cool in the first place.
Right, the proactive strategies. The sources definitely cover this. One key idea is to learn to channel your emotions deliberately.
Channel them. How?
Well, the best leaders, the sources say, use emotion strategically to inspire, to show passion, to seem authentic, but they don't let the emotion control them. They don't let it make them say things they regret. It's about emotional intelligence as a tool.
Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing some interesting physical and mental practices mentioned too, beyond just the breathing. Some were a bit surprising.
Oh, yeah, laughter. It gets highlighted as truly the best medicine.
Laughter, seriously.
Seriously. Physiologically, when you laugh hard, it pumps your diaphragm, it helps move stress chemicals out, and it actually boosts your immune system, increases natural killer cells. Get this, researchers estimate 100 laughs is like 10 minutes on a rowing machine.
Okay, I'm canceling my gym membership.
Huh. Well, maybe not entirely, but it's a good reminder, right? Find ways to laugh more. And of course, the basics matter hugely. Consistent exercise, good diet, enough sleep. If you're run down from lack of any of those, you're just much more likely to be stressed and lose your cool. It sets the foundation.
Makes sense. So build the foundation, find reasons to laugh. What about resolving conflicts once things have cooled down?
A really practical tip that came up often is to take it offline.
Offline, meaning
Meaning, if the issue is with a specific person, maybe in a meeting, suggest talking about it later, privately. Let's discuss this after the meeting. It gives both people time to calm down fully, step away from the emotional heat, and focus on actually solving the problem.
and sometimes the problem seems smaller later.
Often, yeah. Or it might even resolve itself once the emotion is gone. And related to conflict, learning different approaches is valuable. The sources mention things like competing, collaborating, compromising, avoiding, accommodating.
Different styles for different situations.
Exactly. No single style is always best. The real skill is knowing which approach fits the specific conflict and your goals for it.
And for people looking for something deeper, maybe a more consistent practice to build this composure muscle over time.
Meditation comes up frequently, and it doesn't have to be, hours on a cushion. Even just focusing on your breath for a minute or two, several times a day, can make a difference. It builds that skill of intentionally shifting your focus inward, away from the external stressor. Gives your mind some space when it feels, hijacked.
Just short bursts?
Short bursts can be very effective. Also, being transparent about challenges. Sharing struggles with the right people can actually shrink their power. It brings in new ideas, fosters teamwork. And for leaders especially, the source is stress having an outlet outside of work. You need to maintain composure for your team, and that requires managing your own stress effectively. You need a release valve.
We've really covered a lot of ground today, from that neurological tug of war in our brains to specific breathing techniques, those perspective shifts. So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for our listener?
I think the biggest takeaway is that maintaining composure, it's not some magic talent you're born with. It's a skill. A skill you can cultivate, something you practice over a lifetime, really. And as all the sources confirm, developing the skill builds resilience, it improves decision-making, focus, adaptability. It helps create environments where people can actually collaborate and thrive. Ultimately, it's about harnessing your emotions without being ruled by them, choosing that thoughtful response instead of just reacting.
And the benefits seem huge. Beyond just feeling calmer yourself, it impacts your health, your relationships, your success. It really does sound like a kind of quiet power, something that steadies your mind, helps your body, and even deepens connections with others.
Absolutely. Which I suppose leaves a final question for you, the listener, to think about. In a world that often feels chaotic, what's maybe one immediate, tangible step you can take today to start practicing choosing calm?